Oh my god, hi! You're back. Is it because I'm a really good reader? Is it because you guys really wanted to know what happened next? Because I read so good? Or was it just because you just want to hear what happened next because the writer is so good and the book is so good and it's oh my god. So, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to episode 2 of The Bastard of Istanbul. I forgot the goddamn title for a moment. Guys, okay, listen. Listen, I've had a long day. So that's why. It's not because just let's get back into our book, shall we? Before we do get back, listen, today I'm not reading you guys the book at 4:55. Today, I'm reading you guys the book at 2:57. I don't know where my phone is, but believe me. Believe me, okay? Believe me. Thank you. Bastard of Istanbul. Chapter 1. We're still on chapter 1. I did end the video abruptly. I'm sorry about that, the last video. So we're just gonna continue where I had left off. Tangerine-ist, how much cost a kilo? A woman yelled from an open window on the upper floor of a building across the street. It had always amused Reha to see how easily, almost effortlessly, the denizens of this city were capable of inventing unlikely names for ordinary professions. You could add an ist to almost every single thing sold in the market, and the next thing you knew, you had yet another name to be included in the elongated list of urban professions. Thus, depending on what put on sale, one could easily be called a tangerine-ist, waterist, or legalist, or abortionist. By now, Zuleika had no doubt. Not abortionist, excuse me, writer. I love how she just throws it in there. Like, oh, an abortionist. But like, wow, the shade, the shade, the shade. Zuleika had no doubt. Not that she needed one to know what she already was sure about, but she had also had a test done at a newly opened clinic in their vicinity. On the day of the grand opening, the people at the clinic had given a showy reception for a bunch of selected guests and had lined up all the bouquets and garlands right outside at the entrance so that the passers-by on the street could be informed about the occasion as well. When Zaleha had visited the clinic the very next day, most of these flowers had already faded, but the flyers were as colorful as before. Free pregnancy test with each blood sugar test. It said in phosphorescent capital letters. The correlation between the two was unknown to Zaleha, but she had taken the test all the same. When the results arrived, her blood sugar turned out to be normal, and she turned out to be pregnant. "You can come in now," said the receptionist as she stood in the doorway, fighting another R, this time one that was hard to avoid in her profession. "The doctor, he is waiting for you." Her box of tea glasses and the broken heel, Saleha jumped to her feet. She felt all the heads in the room turn toward her, recording her every gesture. Normally, she would have walked as rapidly as she could. At the moment, however, her moves were visibly slow, almost languorous. Just when she was about to leave the room, she paused, and as if pushed by a button she turned around, knowing exactly whom to look at. There, at the center of her gaze, was a most embittered face. The headscarfed woman grimaced by her brown eyes, shadowed by resentment, her lips moving and cursing. The doctor and this 19-year-old about to abort the child Allah should have bestowed not on a slapdash girl, but on her. The doctor was a burly man who communicated strength through his erect posture. Unlike his receptionist, There was no judgment in his stare, no unwise questions on his tongue. He seemed to welcome Zuleha in every way. He made her sign some papers, then more papers, in case anything went wrong, either during or after the procedure. Next to him, Zuleha felt her nerves slacken and her skin thin out, which was too bad because whenever her nerves slackened and her skin thinned out, she became fragile as a tea glass. And whenever she became as fragile as a tea glass, she couldn't help but come close to tears. And that was one thing she truly hated, harboring profound contempt for weepy women ever since she was a little girl. Saleha had promised herself never to turn into one of those walking miseries who scattered tears and nitpicky complaints everywhere they went, and of which there were far too many around her. She had forbidden herself to cry. To this day, she had on the whole managed pretty well to stick to her promise. When and if tears welled up in her eyes, she simply held her breath and remembered her promise. So on the first Friday of July, she once again did what she had always done to stifle the tears. She took a deep breath and thrust her chin upward as an indication of strength. This time, however, something went awfully wrong, and the breath she held came out as a sob. The doctor did not look surprised. He was used to it. The women always cried. There, there, he said, trying to console Zuleha while putting on a pair of medical gloves. It's going to be all right. Don't you worry. It's only a slumber. You'll sleep, you'll dream. Before you finish your dream, we'll wake you up. And you'll go home after that. You'll remember nothing. When Zuleha cried like this, all of her expressions became discernible, and her cheeks sank in, thus accentuating the most telling feature of hers, her nose, that remarkably aquiline nose of hers, which she, like her siblings, had inherited from their father. Hers, unlike her siblings, was sharpened further on the ridges and elongated a bit more on the edges. The doctor patted her shoulder, handing her a tissue, and then handed her the whole box. He had spared box of tissue ready by his desk. Drug companies distributed these tissue boxes free of charge, along with pens and notebooks and other things that carried their company name. They made tissues for women patients who could not stop crying. Figs! Delicious figs! Good ripe figs! Was it the same vendor or a new one? What did his customers call him? Figgist? Zuleha thought to herself as she laid still on the table in a room unnervingly white and immaculate. Neither the accoutrements nor even the knife scared her as much as an absolute whiteness. There was something in the color white that resembled silence. Both were emptied of life. In her endeavors to sway away from colors of silence, Zuleha grew distracted by a black spot on the ceiling. The more she fixed her stare on it, the more the spot resembled a black spider. First it was still, but then it started to crawl. The spider grew bigger and bigger as the injection started to spread in Zuleha's veins. In a few seconds, she was heavy. She could not move a finger as she tried to resist being carried away by the anesthetized slumber. She started to sob again. Are you sure this is what you want? Perhaps you would like to mull it over, said the doctor in a velvety voice, as if Zuleha was a pile of dust, and he was afraid of brushing her away with the wind of his words as he spoke louder. If you'd like to reconsider this decision, it's not too late. But it was. Zuleha knew it had to be done now, on this first Friday of July, today or never. There is nothing to consider. I cannot have her. she heard herself blurt out. The doctor nodded, as if waiting for this gesture. All of a sudden, the Friday prayer poured into the room from the nearby mosque. In seconds, another mosque joined in, and then another and another. Saleha's face contorted in discomfort. She hated it when a prayer originally designed to be called out in the pureness of the human voice was dehumanized into an electro voice roaring over the city from microphones and cabinet speakers. Soon the clamor was so deafening she suspected there was something wrong with the loudspeaker system of each and every mosque in the vicinity. Either that or her ears had become extremely sensitive. "It will be over in a minute. Don't worry." It was the doctor speaking. Saleha looked at him quizzically. Was her contempt for the electro prayer so obvious on her face? Not that she minded. Among all the Kazansi women, she was the only one who was openly irreligious. As a child, it used to please her to imagine Allah as her best friend, which was not a bad thing, of course, except that her best friend was a careless, freckled girl who had made smoking a habit at the age of 8. The girl happened to be daughter of their cleaning lady, a chubby Kurdish woman with a mustache she did not always bother to shave. Back in those days, the cleaning ladies used to come to their house twice a week, bringing her daughter along on each visit. Zaleha and the other girl became good friends. After a while, even cutting their index finger to mix their blood and become lifelong blood sisters. For a week, the two girls went around with the bloody bandage wrapped around their fingers as a sign of their sisterhood. Back in those days, whenever Zaleha prayed, it would be with this bloody bandage she'd be thinking about. If only Allah could become blood sister, her blood sister. "Pardon me," she would instantly apologize, and then repeat again and again, because whenever you apologize to Allah, you had to do it thrice. "Pardon me, pardon me, pardon me." It was wrong, she knew. Allah could not and should not be personified. Me and Saleha are the same people. Like, yes, you have to apologize 3 times, and then it's always like, "Pardon me," but also, I used to, growing up, feel the same. Maybe it's just all the Muslim kids. Maybe it's all the Muslim kids. Yeah, that makes sense. Allah did not have fingers, or blood. For that matter, one had to refrain from attributing human qualities to him. That's to say, him, which was not easy since every one of his, that's to say, his 99 names happen to be qualities also pertinent to human beings. He could see it all, but had no eyes. He could hear it all, but had no ears. He could reach out everywhere, but had no hands. Out of all this information, an 8-year-old Saleha had drawn conclusion that Allah could resemble us, but we could not resemble him. Or was it vice versa? Anyway, one had to learn to think about him, that's to say, him, without thinking of him as him. The chances are she would not have minded this as much if one afternoon she had not spotted a bloody bandage around her elder sister Faride's index finger. It looked like the Kurdish girl made her a blood sister too. Saleha felt betrayed. Only then it dawned on her that her real objection to Allah was not his, that's to say his, not having any blood, but rather having too many blood sisters, too many to care for so as to end up not caring for anyone. The episode of friendship had not lasted long after that. The connect being so big and dilapidated, and Mom being so grumpy and mulish, the cleaning lady quit after a while, taking her daughter away. Having been left without a best friend whose friendship indeed had been rather dubious, Saleha felt a subtle resentment. But she hadn't quite known toward whom. To the cleaning lady for quitting, to her mom for making her quit, to her best friend for playing two sides, to her elder sister for stealing her blood sister, or to Allah. The others being utterly out of her reach, she chose Allah to be resentful towards. Having felt like an infidel at such an early age, she saw no reason why I shouldn't do as an adult. Another call to prayer from another mosque joined. The prayer multiplied in echoes as if drawing circles within circles. Oddly enough, at this moment in the doctor's office, she worried about being late for dinner. She wondered what would be served at the table this evening, and which one of her three sisters had done the cooking. Each of her sisters was good with a particular recipe, so depending on the cook of the day, she could pray for a different dish. She craved stuffed green peppers, a particularly tricky dish, since every one of her sisters made it so differently. Stuffed green peppers. Her breathing slowed while the spider started to descend, still trying to stare at the ceiling. Zaliha felt as if she and the people in the room were not occupying the same space. She stepped into the kingdom of Morpheus. It was too bright here, almost glossy. Slowly and cautiously, she walked along the bridge teeming with cars and pedestrians and motionless fishermen with worms wiggling at the end of their spinning rod. She navigated among them. Every cobblestone she stepped on turned out to be loose, and to her awe, there was only void underneath. Soon she realized in the horror that what was below was also above. It was raining cobblestones from the blue sky. When the cobblestone fell from the sky, cobblestone lessened from the pavement below. Above the sky and under the ground, there was the same thing. Void. As cobblestone rained from the above, enlarging further the cavity underneath, she panicked, afraid of being swallowed by the hungry abyss. Stop! Stop! She cried out as the stones kept rolling under her feet. Stop! She commanded the vehicle speeding toward her and then running her over. Stop! She begged, and the pedestrians shouldering her aside. Please, please stop! When Zaliha woke up, she was alone, nauseous, and in an unfamiliar room. How on earth she could have walked here was a puzzle she had no desire to solve. She felt nothing, neither pain nor sorrow, so she concluded, in the end, the indifference must have won the race. It wasn't only her baby, but her senses too, that had been aborted on that pure white table in the next room. Perhaps there was a silver lining somewhere. Perhaps now she could go fishing and finally manage to stand still for hours on end without feeling frustrated or left behind, as if her life were a swift hare she could only watch from distance but never possibly catch. There you are! Finally back! The receptionist was standing by the door, arms akimbo. Goodness gracious! What a fight! How you scared us! Do you have any idea how you shrieked? It was so awful! Saleha laid still without blinking. The pedestrians on the street must have thought we were slaughtering you or something. I only wondered why the police did not show up at the door. Because it is Istanbul police you're talking about, not some brawny cops in an American movie, Suleha thought to herself, as she finally allowed herself a blink. She could not quite understand why she had annoyed the receptionist, but seeing no point in annoying her any further, she offered the first excuse that came to her mind. Maybe I screamed because it hurt.
But that excuse, no matter how compelling, was instantly crushed. It could not be possible, miss, for the doctor has not performed the operation. We have not even laid a hand on you. What do you mean? Saleha faltered, trying less to find out the answer than to comprehend the weight of her own question. You mean you have not? No, we haven't. The receptionist sighed, holding her head as if at the onset of a migraine. There was absolutely no way the doctor could do anything with you. Screaming at the top of your voice? You did not pass out, woman. No way. First you were blathering, and then you started yelling and cussing. I never seen anything like it in 15 years. It must have taken the morphine twice as long to take the to trying to I'm really trying to do the receptionist imitation because she has a lisp. Yes, I feel like now I'm gonna end up having a permanent lisp. So just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me. Twice as long to take effect on you. Saleha suspected some exaggeration behind this statement, but did not feel like arguing. 2 hours into her visit to the gynecologist, she had come to realize that herein a patient was expected to talk only when asked to. And when you finally blacked out, it was so hard to believe that you wouldn't start shrieking again. The doctor said, let's wait till her mind is clear. If she wants to have this abortion for sure, she can still go for it afterwards. We brought you here and let you sleep. And sleep indeed you did. You mean there was no... The word she had so daringly uttered in front of strangers just this afternoon felt unutterable now. Zaliha touched her belly while her eyes appealed for a consolation. The receptionist was the last person on earth to grant that. So she is still here? Well, you do not know yet if it is a she, the receptionist said, her voice matter of fact. But Saleha knew. She simply once on the street. Despite the gathering darkness, it felt like early morning. The rain had ceased and the life looked beautiful, almost manageable, though the traffic was still a mess and the streets full of sludge. The crisp smell of the after rain gave the whole city a secret air. Here and there, children stomped in the mud puddles, taking delight in committing simple sins. If there ever was a right time to sin, it must have been at this fleeting instant, one of those rare moments when it felt like Allah not only watched over us but also cared for us, one of those moments when He felt close. It almost felt as if Istanbul had become a blissful metropolis, romantically picturesque, just like Paris, thought Zaleha. Not that she had ever been to Paris. A seagull flew close, crying a coded message. She was almost on the verge of deciphering. For a half a minute, Zaleha believed she was on the cutting edge of a new beginning. Why didn't you let me do it, Allah? She heard herself mutter. But as soon as the words came out of her mouth, she apologized in panic to the atheist in herself. Pardon me, pardon me, pardon me. Far and under the rainbow, Zaleha limped back home, clutching the box of tea glasses and the broken heel, somehow feeling less dispirited than she had felt in few weeks. So, on the first Friday of the July, around 8 p.m., Saleha came home to the slightly decrepit, high-ceilinged Ottoman conic that looked out of the place amid 5 times as tall modern apartment buildings on the both sides. She trudged the curved staircase and found all the Kazansi females gathered upstairs around the wide dinner table, occupied with their meals, obviously having felt no reason to wait for her. "Hello, stranger! Come on in, join our supper," Banu exclaimed, craning her neck over and over fried crispy chicken wing. "The Prophet Muhammad advises us to share our food with strangers." Her lips were glossy, so were her cheeks, as if she had taken extra time to wipe the chicken grease all over her face, including on those shiny fawn eyes of hers. 12 years old and 30 pounds heavier than Zaleha, she looked less like her sister than like her mother, if she was to be believed. Banu had a bizarre digestive system that stored everything ingested, which could have been a more credible claim had she not also argued that even if it were pure water that she consumed, her body would still evolve it into fat, and thereby she could not possibly be held accountable for her weight or be asked to go on diet.
This is Zaleha's younger sister. That's her younger sister making those sassy ass comments. Banu is a sassy sister. Girl, I thought like Banu was an older sister saying that, but okay, wild.
"Guess what's on today's menu?" Banu continued merrily as she wagged a finger at Zaleha before she clutched another chicken wing. "Stuffed green peppers?" "This must be my lucky day," Zaleha said. Today's menu looked splendidly familiar in addition to a huge chicken that was your soup, karnıyarık, pilaki kadın budu kofte from the day before, newly made chorek, a jar of ayran, and yes, stuffed green peppers. Saleha instantly pulled up a chair.
This reminds me, I have to make some vuraganab, which a lot of people call dolme. Now I want some.
Saleha instantly pulled up a chair, her hunger prevailing over her lack of enthusiasm for attending a family dinner on such a hard day's eve. "Where were you, Missy?" grumbled her mother, Gulsum, who might have been Ivan the Terrible in another life. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, knitted her eyebrows, and then turned her contorted face towards Zaleha's, as if by doing so she could read her youngest daughter's mind. So there they stood, Gulsum and Zaleha, mother and daughter, scowling at each other, each ready to quarrel but reluctant to start the fight. It was Zaleha who first averted her eyes, knowing too well what a big mistake it would be to display her temper in front of her mother. She forced to smile and attempted an answer, albeit an indirect one. "There were good discounts at the bazaar today. I bought a set of tea glasses. They are absolutely gorgeous. They have gilded stars and little spoons that match." "Alas, they break so easily," murmured Sivriye, the second eldest of the Kazansi sisters and a Turkish national history teacher at a private high school. She always ate healthy, balanced meals and wore her hair in a perfectly pinned chignon that twisted at the nape of her neck without letting even a tangle of her hair loose. "You've been to the bazaar? Why didn't you get any cinnamon sticks? I told you this morning we were going to have rice pudding today, and there was no cinnamon left at home to sprinkle on it." Banu frowned in between two bites of bread, but this problem occupied her for no more than a split second. Her theory of bread, which she was fond of pronouncing regularly and putting into practice all the time, was that if not given proper amount at each and every sitting, the stomach would not know it was full and would thereby ask for more food. For the stomach to fully comprehend its fullness, one had to eat decent portion of bread with everything.
Banu, my girl, put the bread away. Put the bread down. It seems like you need to put the bread down.
Thus, Banu would have bread with potatoes, bread with rice. Bread with rice? Banu, you're odd. Bread with pasta. Okay. Bread with borok. Okay. And at those times when she wanted to give her stomach a far clearer message, she would have bread with bread. Oh my, Banu. Banu, my girl, put the bread down, baby. You've done enough. Enough. Let's just let it be for now. Dinner without bread was a sheer sin, which Allah might forgive, but Banu definitely would not. Zuleha pursed her lips and stood silent, only now remembering the fate of the cinnamon sticks. Avoiding the question, she put a stuffed pepper on her plate. Each, oh, this sounds delicious. I want stuffed pepper, dude.